Today on the Big 3 in 30, the Pistons get a win over the Nuggets in Denver.
And they got the win in this game against Denver.
The Cavs lose Evan Mobley to injury again.
Mobley's going to miss the next 1 to 3 weeks.
And the Suns hold off the Nets for a win.
The Suns found a way to win this game.
This is the Big 3 in 30 NBA. The 3 biggest stories in the NBA from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The Big 3 in 30 NBA starts now. Thank you for making the Big 3 in 30 your first listen of the day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. The Pistons went into Denver and took a win over the Nuggets behind Cade Cunningham's double-double. Locked On Pistons host Ku Khalil recaps the win.
The Pistons start their 3-game road trip here in Denver. They win 109-107. Everyone knows, this gets talked about nonstop when you go and play in Denver. Everyone knows about the high altitude. Everyone knows about this, all right? Everyone has to go and deal with it, though. So I don't really like to use it as any kind of excuse for, this person didn't shoot well or this person didn't play well. Oh, they were probably adjusting to the high. Every team in the league has to go to Denver and eventually play. So I don't really like using that as much of an excuse. The Pistons, I felt like, did not play very well in this game at all. And I think, again, a lot of these concerns that we spoke about after the Houston Rockets loss, I feel like you saw in this game against Denver. And these are now back-to-back games against high-quality Western Conference opponents where I feel like some of these concerns are really flashing. There's a flashing red light that's saying concern, concern, concern. And they got the win in this game against Denver. But again, I've said this quote many times on the podcast. I forget which football coach said this, but it was an NFL head coach. I forget who it is that said the quote. But you should never accept, the quote is, you should never accept in a win what you wouldn't accept in a loss. Just because you win the game, just because you come away somehow with the win, doesn't mean you just act like what just happened didn't happen. Doesn't mean you act like the flashing red light about some of these concerns. You just ignore it because you got away with a 2-point win. Now, mind you, Denver did not have Nikola Jokic in this game, and the Pistons won by 2. They did not have Nikola Jokic in this game. The Pistons were only able to manage 109 points in this game. And then some of the plays late in this game, that's really what I want to start with, or really want to go to, I guess, not start with. But I want to go to, what were the Pistons doing at the end of this game? I'll save some of the decisions JB made for later on in the podcast, but Javonte Green fouled a 3-point shooter twice when they were up 3 points in the final 35-40 seconds of this game. You're up by 3 and you foul a 3-point shooter twice in the final 40 seconds. Jamal Murray was the one who was fouled, by the way. A career, I believe, 89% free throw shooter. And he missed 2 of his free throws. So you really got bailed out in that regard. Because Jamal Murray, who has historically been a great free throw shooter, missed 2, and you end up having to go to overtime. You having to go to overtime in what everyone understands is Denver with the high altitude, everyone's tired, all that kind of thing, would have been terrible. Would have been absolutely terrible. I couldn't believe I saw that. And then you just talk about the overall game. The Pistons shot, again, 19% from 3. They shot 6 of 31 from deep. They shot 19%. This is not going to cut it. You are not going to go deep in the playoffs with this poor of shooting. And we talked about this in the last podcast, the very last episode. When Duncan isn't hitting his shots, this team has nowhere to go for 3-point shooting. They just don't have anywhere to go. And what makes this 3-point shooting night even worse, in my opinion, is that 2 of the threes came from Ron Holland, who for Ron individually you are happy about, and it's great, love to see Ron hit 2 threes. From a future, looking into the future and evaluating the team as a whole, if you are making 6 threes and 2 of them are because of Ron Holland, you're probably not betting on Ron hitting 2 threes again. So if you remove Ron's threes, they only had 4 made threes. 2 of your made threes, he was your leading 3-point shot maker. And it's a guy who shoots under 30 or 25% from 3. It's not a sustainable. In the playoffs, this will catch up to them. It will catch up to them if they don't find a way to address this by the trade deadline. Duncan was 0 of 8 from beyond the arc in this game. Cade was 1 of 4. Tobias, he had a great game, but again, some of the you get great stuff with Tobias, and then some of the poor stuff you get from Tobias is that he just doesn't shoot threes. He's 0 of 2 from beyond the arc. Javonte Green, 1 of 3. Ivy, 2 of 6. Ron, 2 of 4. Stu, 0 of 2. Duncan Robinson, 0 of 8. Dennis Jenkins, 0 of 2. And with that, they were only able to beat Denver by 2 without Jokic. That's concerning to me. That's pretty concerning to me. Detroit has, at least I think, I think this is the case. We all have high expectations for this team moving forward. We all have high expectations for this team in the playoffs. If they want to do something in the playoffs, that they can't, shooting 19% from deep isn't going to make it work. This isn't going to make it work. And then having some of that decision making you had to the end of the game, fouling the 3-point shot, that's rookie. That's young team, not just Pistons young team. That's Piston team from 2 years ago kind of mistakes. This poor mistakes. So I did not like this. I did not like this game from the Pistons at all, considering who was available on the other team. I mean, Cam Johnson wasn't even available for this team either. I really don't like, I did not like this game from the Pistons at all. On a positive note from what they did in this game, that was good to see. They did take care of the ball. 7 turnovers, and like I've said over and over, when you do play this way, you absolutely have to win the margins, and you absolutely have to dominate the possession game. And they forced 15 turnovers from Denver. The Pistons only turned the ball over 7 times. So they got away with their 3-point shooting because they took very good care of the ball, didn't turn it over, and took away possessions from the other team. That's how they were able to get away with it, and that's how they've continued to get away with it, and they probably will get away with it a lot throughout the rest of the season, the regular season, that is. But as the game slows down in the playoffs, it's a tough way to sell yourself on being having sustainable winning in the playoffs. It's tough. But nonetheless, they did do a good job with it. I mean, they were up by 18 points at one point in this game, too, and they blew it. And came so close at the end of the game to blowing it. Just not a great game from the team. You'll take the win. A win is a win. You're not complaining about a W, but some of the stuff in this game, it just has to be corrected. They have to be better. They have to play better. And they need to start improving in these areas before, pretty soon, so they can start developing these type of habits going into the playoffs. Again, I have expectations for this team to go deep in the playoffs. I don't want just one playoff series win, and then in the second round for us to be sitting here talking about, oh, well, they shot 20% from 3. We saw that coming, and they ended up losing. I don't want that to be. That's not what I have expectations for. This is they're having way too good of a season for it to potentially be ruined by the fact they just don't have anyone that can shoot. You got the win. It is a road trip. So you take that no matter what. You take the win.
It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff. The final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game everyone's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting, from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season's over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started.
Welcome back to the Big 3 in 30 NBA. The Cavs' Evan Mobley left Monday's game against the Magic with a strained calf, and Cleveland announced he will miss at least the next week because of it. To figure out how Cleveland manages without the Defensive Player of the Year, here's Danny Cunningham with Locked On Mavs.
Evan Mobley is where we need to start this show, because the Cavs announced on Tuesday afternoon that Mobley is going to miss the next 1 to 3 weeks with a left calf strain. And this is the same calf that Evan previously had injured. He missed some time in December. And the good news here is that Evan Mobley consistently throughout his career has been a fast healer. He's not missed a lot of time due to injuries. He's been somebody that has been pretty available throughout his time on the floor. Like, yes, he had that knee surgery a couple years ago, but even like last year, I think that had it not been the playoffs when he had that ankle injury against the Indiana Pacers, he probably would have missed more time than just one game. He ended up missing game 2, was back in game 3. Don't know that he looked all that great afterwards on what was a freak injury and certainly looked to be pretty painful, but he bounced back from it about as quick as you could have imagined or as you could have hoped. And think back to earlier this year when he had this calf injury to the same leg. It was originally stated that he was going to miss 2 to 4 weeks. And that came out, I believe it was on December 12th or December 13th. It was in that neighborhood. And you think, okay, well, this probably puts us until the middle of January, especially with how finicky calf injuries can be. Right? Like, you do not want that to lead to the other thing that it can lead to that we have unfortunately seen it lead to in the cases of Tyrese Halliburton and Jason Tatum and Kevin Durant in the past. Like, that is absolutely the number one thing that you do not want to happen here. But Evan was able to be back in 12 days. Like, he was upgraded from out to questionable on Christmas Eve. And then he, albeit on a minutes restriction and coming off of the bench, he played in the Christmas Day game against the New York Knicks. And I think that maybe part of the reasons, and without really knowing too much of the specifics about the injury, other than he reported tightness after the win against Orlando on Monday, and they're going to kind of, hold him out for a while. I would imagine that if Evan did not have this track record as a fast healer that he has earned here, I would imagine that this injury would be looked at as longer than 1 to 3 weeks. Like, you would probably be looking at a 2 to 4 week time frame that was similar to what we had the last time Evan got hurt. But he has shown this ability to get back quick and to be able to heal faster than other players. And it's one of the best things about him is that he's always available and always healthy. And this is, I think, a really, really frustrating thing for fans, for people inside the organization, really for everybody involved, because I don't know that it's fair to say the Cavs have turned the corner. And we'll talk about that more in the second segment, but they finally have found this consistency that's really been lacking. Like, I don't think that it's coincidental. The Cavs have had a 4-game winning streak here, and it's the first time they've had the same 5 start 5 straight games. Like, prior to this past week, the Cavs had not had the same starting 5 in more than 3 consecutive games at any point this season. And now they've had that same group, which obviously will not be the case on Wednesday night against the Lakers because Evan Mobley is out. But they have had that starting 5 go for 5 straight games. And I do think that is at least part of the reason why they're finding success. So having to replace Evan in the starting lineup, having to replace Evan on the defensive end of the floor, like, those are going to be really tall tasks that are not going to be just absorbed by one player. We can't sit here and look at Jared Allen and say, hey, you have to be Evan Mobley now. And we can't sit here and look at Larry Nance Jr., who I would expect to start to get a few more minutes, or Thomas Bryant, who I think it makes sense to put in the every night rotation now with Evan Mobley out. Like, you can't look at those guys and just say, hey, go be Evan Mobley, because those guys are not Evan Mobley. Like, if they were, they would not be in Cleveland, because you don't have room to pay 2 guys that are as good as Evan Mobley at that same position. Like, that's just not how things work. But I do think the Cavs are going to be asking a number of different guys to kind of like pull from individual areas or parts of Mobley's game. I think it's going to lead to Kenny Atkinson needing to be creative in his lineups. And Kenny has shown the ability to really be creative with some of those lineups. I mean, so much so that even against the Orlando Magic, it's the second quarter again, and I'm pulling up Cleaning the Glass and saying, hey, the lineup on the floor right now has not played together yet this season. And it's January 26th as that happens. So I don't think that this is a franchise or a coaching staff that's scared of creativity. But when you are without Evan Mobley, when you're still without Darius Garland, when you're still without Max Strus, and yes, it does seem like Sam Merrill and DeAndre Hunter will both be back for Wednesday night's game. They've both been upgraded to probable, at least as of the injury report on Tuesday evening that the Cavs put out. So that is like one of the bright sides here, is that they're not having to replace Evan Mobley while also having 4 other rotation players out. They're going to replace Evan Mobley while having 2 other rotation players out in all likelihood, which makes things a little bit easier. It also, I do think, probably means that this team is going to have to find a way to be a little bit more offensive oriented. And we will get into this when we have the Darius Garland discussion coming up, but like the Cavs offensively have not been great. They have missed the guys that have been out. Like they have missed Sam. They have missed Darius. They have missed DeAndre. And I know that maybe not everybody believes that because DeAndre has not had the greatest start to the season so far, but they have missed everybody on the offensive end of the floor. And they're going to really, I think, have to lean into who they can be offensively without Evan Mobley on the floor because he is such a big part of their defense. Like I think, and he's not going to win Defensive Player of the Year. This injury probably puts a nail in that coffin. He's not going to win Defensive Player of the Year, but I think that he's been just as good, if not a better defensive player than he was last year. And I really think that the basketball that he's been playing lately, aside from the 3-point shot, because the 3-point shot has not been good since he came back from that calf injury. Since Christmas, I believe he's like 10 of close to 50. Like it has been, he's shooting around 25% on threes. It's not been good. Other than that, his offensive game has really been good lately. Like he has played, I think, some of the best basketball of his career. It's just that the shot from the outside hasn't fallen yet. And now the Cavs are going to have to find a way to replace that. And I think one of the biggest challenges is going to be, how do you replace what Evan Mobley does for this team without putting more on Donovan Mitchell's plate? Because, and I understand that the skill sets are completely different. Like you don't necessarily equate, oh, Evan is out, Donovan needs to do more. Like you would think Jarrett needs to do more, or Dean Wade needs to do more offensively, or they need DeAndre Hunter to be better offensively. And maybe those guys will pick it up. But ultimately, I think what the danger here is, and we can even go back to a couple of years ago, the last time when both Evan Mobley and Darius Garland were out for an extended period of time. And the Cavs played very, very well in that stretch, certainly. And I'm not going to sit here and say it's not possible for them to play well. Like I do think that this is a team that should still feel good about itself. And especially if they get healthier here, can find a way to still go on a run, but they need to find a way to not need Donovan Mitchell to be a superhero every night. And I don't know that the Cavs needed 45 points from him against the Magic on Monday night. I think they kind of needed the 36 points they got on Saturday against the Magic a little bit more. But the Cavs can't have that many of those games, because if that happens, then you're going to run Donovan Mitchell into the ground. And it might, honestly, and I know that nobody wants to hear this, during this stretch, if there's a night where Donovan doesn't have it going on and the Cavs lose, it just kind of has to be what it is. Like, I don't know that this is the time where we can be super critical about what the team looks like. And I've talked recently about how the Cavs they're not thriving right now. They're not. Like, this is not some beautiful brand of basketball. This is not what anybody thinks the peak of the Cavs internally, and I think externally. Nobody watching this team right now should feel like, yes, this is the best the Cavs can be. They're getting by, and they're doing a great job of getting by, and they deserve a lot of credit given their situation. But now getting by is going to be a little bit tougher. And they do have some advantages coming up in the schedule. Like, yes, this West Coast trip is not going to be easy, but there are some built-in advantages, like the game against the Suns on Friday. It's the second night of a back-to-back for the Suns, and they're not going to have Devin Booker. The game against the Blazers on Sunday in Portland. It's Portland's first game back from a long East Coast road trip that they're on right now. There's no schedule advantage against the Clippers, but then you get to Sacramento, and it's the second night of a back-to-back for the Kings. And the Kings are not a good team, but you will take any advantage you can get right now if you're the Cavs. And who knows, at that point, that's over a week. Like, maybe Evan Mobley is back at that point. And then you get to the end of the trip, and yeah, Denver is unquestionably the best team the Cavs are going to play out there. But even for Denver, they go out east, and that will be their first game back home off of that road trip. And the Nuggets have been a much better team on the road for whatever reason I don't understand, but they've been a better team on the road so far this year than they have been at home. So with Evan Mobley out now for the next week to 3 weeks, and we don't know how long it's going to be when it's an injury with Evan, I will always bet that he's going to be back closer to the start of the timeline than the end of the timeline. But anytime it's a calf injury, I think it's fair to say that the Cavs should be and will be cautious. Doesn't mean he won't be back soon, but he's going to miss some time. The challenge for the Cavs is just stay afloat. Keep your heads above water until he's back, until Darius is back, until Max is back, because this team does have enough when it's fully healthy to go on a run. It's just They have to actually get fully healthy before we can ever actually say it's time to truly flip that switch on.
It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff. The final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game everyone's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season's over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started.
Welcome back to the Big 3 and 30 NBA. The Suns fought down the stretch with the Nets, but ended up holding off Brooklyn in the end to get a win at home. Ben Garcia has his post-game reaction on Locked On Suns.
That game turned from what I thought a second there when the Suns got down, I think it was like 97-93, what I thought was going to be a disastrous loss that you really couldn't have, where I was going to say, well, this is what happens when you rest guys. Like, could Jalen Green go tonight? Probably. Could Colin Gillespie go tonight? Probably. The Suns opted to have them have a little bit more time off because they felt like they could beat the Brooklyn Nets with their B team. And for a second there, it was going to be, well, you can't lose these games. These games matter. But the Suns found a way to win this game. And there's a couple of different things that go into that. The first thing is this. I felt very vindicated with yet another Suns take, and that is Mark Williams. I've been talking about Mark Williams and his involvement in the Suns offense. I don't know the other shows, but I feel like I've been the first one trying to shed the light on it. I've put shorts out there of it, multiple ones, and for me it's just, we saw him at the beginning of the season. For the first month, he was awesome. In fact, I didn't talk enough about him because it was one of those things. It was death, taxes, and Mark Williams. He was going to put up a double-double every night. He was going to be the defensive anchor for the Phoenix Suns. But then out of nowhere, 2 months ago almost, they just decided, we're going to phase you out of the offense. And they did. Mark Williams has been phased out of the offense for the better part of about a month, maybe two. And in games, like, I understand, when the Suns are fully healthy, the pecking order is Devin Booker, Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, Mark Williams. You could scramble up those last three. Maybe some nights it's Mark Williams, some nights it's Dylan Brooks, and then it, falls short of the other two guys. But in nights where there's no Devin Booker, and there's no Jalen Green, and there's no Colin Gillespie, Mark Williams needs to be the featured focal point of this Suns offense. Because make no mistake about it, the Suns' weaknesses came to light again today. Remember, I was ostracized for daring to mention that the Suns could move one of their 6 guards to get bigger in the front court. Now, would that have solved all the Suns' problems? No. But it would have solved their problems against teams like the Brooklyn Nets. The Nets scored 29 points in the first quarter. 22 of them were in the painted area. Now, that after a while got flip-flopped, and the Suns did take advantage of the Brooklyn Nets in the painted area. But that has been an issue for the Suns all year long. And I understand at this point, with the Jalen Green injuries, you're probably not making any big trades. And honestly, there's a very good argument to be made the Suns shouldn't be doing that. And with you guys last week, I said, yeah, we're probably not trading anyone anymore because you're not sure about the health of Jalen Green. But I digress there because that's not what's important. Mark Williams is what's important. And I'm not just saying this because his family listens to the show, because they've been very kind to me. I'm saying this because I'm honest with you. Like, I think there was some validity to Hayden's argument yesterday on the show, saying that some of Mark Williams and his lack thereof in the offense is on him. But some of it is also, but most of it is on the Phoenix Suns. who over the past month have decided, oh, so Iguodala, you're the guy, which I'm not necessarily against, but there needs to be a role for Mark Williams on this offense. For big men that play on teams that huck up 43-pointers a night, it's hard to stay engaged because you know the ball's not coming to you. Tonight, it felt like there was a concerted effort that we are going to get the ball to Mark Williams. And I'm sitting up here with a couple of different media members. And some of them know my stuff because I'm a loudmouth and, I can be a little irritating at times, I think, with some of my takes, but that's because I'm passionate. That's what I think it is. But I was talking with my guy, Donnie Druin of Suns on SI, who also does Cardinals on SI. I was talking to a couple other guys up there. And it's in the fourth quarter. And Mark Williams has 20 points. And he scored his last point in the third quarter with 5 minutes and 24 seconds left to go in the third quarter. He didn't get another bucket until I think it was 7:30 left in the fourth quarter. 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter. That is too long of a stretch of period of time where Mark Williams isn't on the court, but also isn't involved in the Suns' offense. He's the reason why they came back and won tonight. Yeah, did Grayson Allen have a great play down low where he put, Ben Sarif in a blender? Absolutely. Was that the right shot? I don't think so, but it went in, so who cares? The right play in the fourth quarter was getting the ball to Mark Williams early and often and as fast as you could. He had 7 points in the fourth quarter. Each of them felt massive. One of them was an and one opportunity to cut the lead to 1. The next one was backing down Nick Claxton, putting you up by 2. He was feasting on this Nets team. Nick Claxton's a pretty good defensive center. And this is where the argument has come from me that you cannot phase someone out of the offense who you not only spent 2 first-round picks on, but it's not the Bradley Beal thing where he's never available. And when he is available, he's laughing when the opposing team's hitting threes on him. He's a dominant force down low. He's a top 8 to 10 center in the league. Get him involved. And I'm not going to scream from the mountaintops when Devin Booker and when the Suns are fully healthy that Mark Williams needs, 20 shots a night. Tonight he had 15. Do you want to guess what he did on that? 13 for 15. Somehow he only got fouled once and hit that and one bucket late in the fourth quarter. Sure. Does he need to have more rebounds? Absolutely. I think the rebounding thing was a problem for the Phoenix Suns as a whole. They were out-rebounded tonight by a Brooklyn Nets team. They ended up beating them in points in the paint, but they were out-rebounded by the Brooklyn Nets. 12-9 in the offensive rebounding department and 35-31 overall. The Suns need to make you can't just point at Mark Williams and say, you got to be better rebounding the ball, because that is true, without also pointing the finger at everyone else on this team. There was a point where, I think it was Shaedon Sharpe, I think that's who it was, in here, in my notes. Sorry, not Shaedon Sharpe. Deron Sharpe went up with Jamari Bouye, Ryan Dunn, and Royce O'Neal all in the painted area. He brought down the ball on an offensive rebound and put it back in the cup. That can't happen. There needs to be a more concerted effort to rebound the ball better, like they have on the defensive end. A want to, a willingness. Some guys do that. Jordan Goodwin had, I think he had 9 rebounds tonight. He continues to do that. So Mark Williams needs to have that as well. But on a team that is struggling to score the basketball, the Suns only scored 106 points tonight. I went on Locked On Cavs today to preview that game with them, and I said, that's sometimes what it's going to look like. Right now, when you guys are injured, when you got a bunch of guys injured, this is what the games are going to look like. Gross. And you got to win them close. And you got to hit late buckets down late. And the Suns shot 57% from the field. A lot of that was the heavy lifting on Mark Williams, who was 13 for 15. So I just felt vindicated on that. I want to see Mark Williams get more involved in this Suns offense. Not just when they need him. But when Devin Booker is back, when Jalen Green is back, did you see how many lobs Mark Williams had tonight? It must have been like 4 of them, at least. He was all over around the cup. When you get an engaged Mark Williams involved, good things are going to happen. And he's going to help with pressuring the rim, along with Jalen Green. Can he become a little bit better of a passer and help slashers get to the basket? For sure. But what we can't do is have a guy that you gave up 2 first-round picks for just sit there in the painted area and tell him to grab boards. He's too talented for that. Numerous of his lobs attempts were all athletic, grab the ball from the back of your head. So credit to Jordan Knott for making that adjustment tonight, knowing that the Brooklyn Nets are not that great of a defensive team, and there's no one on that team that can hold you. And Mark Williams was ready for that and was the main reason why the Suns won this game tonight.
That's all for today's Big 3 in 30 NBA. If you follow football or college sports, the Big 3 in 30 has shows for the biggest news in the NFL and on campus going up every weekday just like this one. Just search the Big 3 in 30 NFL or the Big 3 in 30 college wherever you're listening or watching now. Thanks again for tuning in to the Big 3 in 30 NBA.